Happy 4th of July, and just like fireworks going off tonight, the Houston Astros have the second half of the season coming up their way. After a week off the All-Star break, I'm joined by Chris Castellani of Barstool Sports to talk about a possible meteoric rise of the Houston Astros on this edition of Locked On Astros.
Alvarez hits a high drive center field. Vierling's back. This game is turned upside down. There's the runner. Fly ball down the right field line. Tucker comes on. Kyle Tucker. This time they finish the job.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett Htown Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we're your daily Astros podcast. I'm Htown Wheelhouse. You can find me at Htown Wheelhouse on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros. You can find the show at Locked On Astros, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, anywhere you get your podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be coming every dayer. Hey, happy 4th of July, everybody. I'm Htown Wheelhouse, and I'm joined by the one, the only, the incomparable, the undefeated, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world coming out of Detroit, Chris, the Man Castellani. How you doing, sir? Welcome to the show.
The one and only. Thank God there's only one and only so far. I think we can only use one. But no, thank you obviously very much for that introduction. No, I mean, it's good. Look, man, it's locked on again. It's like riding bikes, man. I was going back to the days of COVID when we were doing locked on podcasts about nothing when there was no baseball going on. So it's good to be back here and, talking baseball, talking a little Astros as they, the one thing that you guys are provided with that my team has not had the luxury of having over the last several years. You guys are going to have an interesting summer, regardless of whether it goes great or goes sideways. You're playing for something. You're going to be buyers at the deadline. It is fun. Even I wouldn't necessarily call myself an outsider, but as somebody who is not necessarily a fan of any other team, it is admirable and fun to watch other fan bases get excited knowing, down the stretch here, we're going to be playing for something. It's always enjoyable.
Yeah, exactly. And, this year I told people, real quick, before we get into that, Chris, tell the people where they can find you, because not everybody watches the YouTube channel. We got audio listeners. Maybe they can look for you on social media. Yeah,
well, my personal Twitter is at Castellani 2014. There you'll get honestly, that's the mainstay where you'll kind of get everything thrown at you from all different platforms. We're really pushing the TikTok stuff. That's Chris Castellani. So just my name. I think it's technically Chris Castellani. But, the big stuff that we've been doing lately, Barstool Baseball is off and running. We do 3 podcasts a week. I'm featured usually on 2 of them. We do Power Rankings, and I'm on the American League show. That's at Stool Baseball on Twitter. And there you'll also find the link tree to our YouTube page. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our TikTok page as well, Barstool Baseball, where it currently has, and I didn't even realize this until recently, 406,000 followers right now. So we appreciate the people who've helped grow that thing. So it's definitely a work in progress. But yeah, on all those platforms, you'll find the podcast, the videos, and every night on my personal Twitter, and as has been the case since I was in college, every day, Tigers post-game videos talking about the boys. And so, yeah, definitely a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and talk about meteoric rises. I mean, you would think this was about Chris Castellani. Look, I remember when you came to Locked On, and I remember when you got there to Barstool, just what I love, and the reason why we want to bring you back is just your absolute love for the game, your passion for sports. And look, I think you even said it recently, like your B team is the Houston Astros, and the Tigers. Look, to be a Tigers fan, you've got to be somewhat dedicated. It seems like it is It seems like it is at times a great existence, and at other times it's kind of a tough love relationship. Like, I love you guys, but there's some things we got to talk about kind of relationship, Miggy with all his accolades, and that's coming to an end. But, I know Torque hit, I think he had like a 2 home run game recently. And so, look, sometimes you can't see the trees through the forest, when you're in Detroit. But look, with your perspective and with your knowledge, I love the way you break things down. So let's get into it. Yordan Alvarez has been out for an extended time, and the league probably has been happy about that because he just absolutely
opposing pitchers, definitely, I would say.
Yeah, he absolutely opposes pitcher. I mean, just whoever's at the plate. The guy's calm, cool, collect. The pitch clock has not had an effect because he doesn't even leave the batter's box. He doesn't have a pre-pitch routine. He just stares the pitcher down. Mm-hmm. With his imminent return, how important is it for the Houston Astros going into the second half? Because you can see where this offense has sputtered at times without him in the lineup.
You know, it really is interesting, man, because when I've talked, and I tweeted about it a little bit yesterday, the Astros have had a fair amount of pitching injuries. You know, Luis Garcia, McCullers obviously being out for the year. Valdez, I think, is going to be fine, but he missed a start. You knew coming into the season you weren't going to have Verlander, but you still, you know, you lost Verlander in free agency. And yet, despite some guys having setbacks or injuries, they're still first in the American League in ERA right now, I believe. Maybe that's changed. But offensively, there has been their struggles. And I tweeted about it yesterday where I think after losing Yordan, given the way the Astros offense was going and given the way that the Rangers were kind of rolling, you felt like there was a real possibility for there to be a fair amount of separation there between first and second place in that division. And up to this point, now they still have one more game in the 4-game series they're playing against Texas right now. As of now, they're 4 games back. They could be 3 games back by the end of today. They could be 5 games back, but that is within striking distance to a point where you can get Yordan back. And then you start to entertain the idea of, all right, let's really make a run at this division, because there's so much talk at this time of year, understandably so, about trade deadlines and who's going to be buyers, who's going to be sellers, what are you going to have to give up to get pieces back. The Astros are at a point right now where their trade deadline acquisitions, they don't have to give up anything for, because their acquisitions are going to be getting Yordan Alvarez back, maybe, you know, getting some of the pitchers returning to form. So that is, you know, that's obviously incredibly enticing. I mean, we look at the metrics and we look at things like wins above replacement and OPS, and all those things are important. But when you're talking about a player of Yordan's caliber, there's more than that he impacts, or there's more of an impact that he has in the game than just what is seen in the stat sheet, where having him in that lineup, the way that you pitch to Bregman, the way that you pitch to Altuve or Tucker or Pena is drastically different when you know coming up is going to be Yordan. You know, that guy who's capable of driving in any one of these guys if they get on base. So he'll come back. That's going to be a massive difference. It is surprising, given the way that this team has gone offensively over the last several years, to see them being as kind of not Astros-like as they've been. But as I talked about recently, you know, Bregman, I think, is starting to come around. I think he'll break out a little bit. Abreu is never going to be what he was in Chicago, but over the last month, his OPS is over 800. He had a 3-hit day yesterday. He owns Andrew Heaney. So I think there's definitely signs that of improvement. Now, for the first time since this great Astros run started in 17, I'm not counting the COVID year, this is the first time that you have a team in your division that is on par with you guys. I never believed in 18 or some of those years that the A's were ever going to catch you guys. This is one of the few times where I think the Rangers have assembled a roster that is capable of winning that division and in turn capable of winning the pennant or the World Series. But it's going to make for a really, really interesting race. I think that you have 2 teams that are poised to make deep runs into October. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not the Rangers can kind of hold off Houston, because you know they're going to make their moves, and you know, given the pedigree, that they're going to get hot at some point here in the future.
Yeah, right. And with this news, I know we had recently heard back on Monday that basically Michael Brantley's season is pretty much done.
Yeah.
I saw the tea leaves with McCullers before they even announced it. Mm-hmm. I just assumed, look, with the age, with the shoulder surgery for a 36 or 37-year-old is different than a shoulder surgery for someone like Jake Myers, right?
Right.
And Jake Myers still at times has shown a struggle. I know beginning of the season, he looked real timid on diving and things. He actually has hit the wall a few times. Yeah. You know, he still goes out there with this glove and is a decent glove. And I know people prefer Chaz over Myers, but with this second half heat up, I believe imminent and about to happen in this next segment. I want to talk more about what do you think some of the keys to an Astros heat up would be. But before we do that, Chris, I got to tell our fans about Sleeper. Look, we have partnered with Sleeper, and right now they have a promo. You get up to $100 match on your first deposit on mobile only, sleeper.com/promo/locked-on. And let me tell you, they are giving you 100 times your money back. So if you're looking at the Astros versus the Rockies, I'm definitely taking some home run bets with the Astros. I'm going to grab Altuve. I'm going to grab Bregman. Heck, I may even grab a Abreu. I mean, get a wild hair. I just think this Colorado Rockies team is susceptible to giving up the long ball. And this Sleeper app is phenomenal. You can also be in fantasy leagues with it. So swing for the fences with Sleeper picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Use a promo code Locked On, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. So predict the hottest baseball stats like home runs, hits, strikeouts, much more. Cash in on your daily fantasy skills. Use a promo code Locked On, and Sleeper will match your first $100 deposit. Make sure that you understand a couple things. You get quick payouts. This is an easy-to-use app. It's safe and secure, and you don't have to worry about it. You can place in-game contests, more stat categories. I mean, just the dynamic payout, the quick payout is really make this place second to none. So check it out. Entries can be made in 30 seconds or less. It's that easy, safe, and secure. Currently operational in over 30 states. So again, use a promo code Locked On, and they'll match your first $100 deposit. And make sure that you tune in to the Houston Astros broadcast on July 5th on the Sirius XM app. Check out the local Houston Astros home broadcast, where they will take on the Rockies at 1:10 p.m. It's a day game, and they are giving all fans a Yordan Alvarez bobblehead. So check that out, and check out the Sirius XM app. Search Astros. All right, so let's get into the second half heat up. You kind of touched on it. Look, Jose Abreu came in. A lot of people, it's kind of tough. You know, the favorite kid in the class leaves. He moves, transfers schools, and Yuli Gurriel. Everybody loves Yuli. You know, people are like, well, what am I going to do with my Yuli Gurriel wig? Or what am I going to do with this pineapple hat that I have? Where's La Pina? Yeah. And Abreu comes in, and he couldn't have had a more tough introduction to a city, to a winning program, because he said, I came here because they're winners. I came here because, you know, I work hard and I know what kind of group is here. And then when he gets here, everybody heard about this flat start. And even Dusty Baker even said, I called the White Sox to ask if we got the right guy. Like, he literally said that he called them, hey, did you send us the right dude? Yeah. And they said, trust me, he'll heat up. And June has been an absolute, I mean, to, you know, coin a July 4th term, fireworks. I mean, I'm sure you heard fireworks before the 4th of July. And I think we've been seeing that with him. How integral is this? Is a key veteran in Major League Baseball. He's a good guy. How key is it for him to be firing right now before Yordan even comes back? And is that even more impressive because when Yordan comes back, there's more protection. He's still going to be seeing the pitches.
For sure. I think that it's a hugely important sign that he's started to get hot, started to ascend without Yordan, because I really liked the Abreu signing. I did. I liked it when it happened. I knew obviously you're losing Verlander. You go out, you get some offense. Now, I also knew and said at the time, the power numbers for Jose Abreu were not going to be what they've been in the past. He is no longer a 30 home run a year guy. In fact, last year he played 157 games, only hit 15 home runs, but lifetime career batting average of 289. I love the signing because I felt like you put him sixth in that lineup. You know, those first five guys, there's not a whole lot of room to breathe. And then you got to pitch to a heavy contact guy who's going to slap the ball around, who can hit for power, maybe not home run power, but definitely doubles power. You know, last year had 40 doubles in the season. So I liked the signing at the time. The one issue that he's kind of run into in his career, and it really caught up to him at the beginning of this season, is that for somebody who has, you know, he's almost at 250 career home runs and has had seasons where he's hit 30, 35. He's never been a high on base guy necessarily. You know, this year He's only walked 21 times. He struck out 77 last year, struck out 110 times, only walked 62. So like, he's never been a guy that's even in his best days is going to be a 400 something on base percentage guy. And that, when you're not getting on base, drawing walks and you're striking out a lot, I mean, those numbers are going to get really ugly. It seems like the contact rate is back. It's up. He will need to be, if this team wants to get to where they want to get to, he's going to need to be an integral part of this team. Now, he doesn't have to be what he was in Chicago, but I think that when you look at one of the reasons why Yuli Gurriel, I think, was so beloved in Houston was that he fit so well in that lineup. Like I said, you would have that 1 through 5 that was just devastating, no matter what the order was, whether it was Springer was there, or Pena was there, Brantley was there, what have you. Those first 5 were always tough. But then you had Yuli, who is this kind of a pest at the plate, who, won a batting title a few years ago that you would put 5th and 6th in the lineup, that was capable of, on his best day being an 80 to 100 RBI a year guy. I think that with Abreu, there was probably a little bit more of a psychological impact. I mean, this guy, he was signed by the White Sox, from Cuba. He made his major league debut at 27. All he ever knew was the South Side of Chicago professionally.
Exactly.
And he was the guy there. I mean, they loved Jose Abreu. He was their franchise player. He won an MVP for him in the COVID year, won Rookie of the Year. So there has to be something of a culture shock going from the South Side of Chicago, where, and no disrespect, but where they've won one division since they won it all in 2005, to immediately going to a group where it's, hey, World Series or bust. We're selling out every night. Lights are very bright. Microscopes on us. I think that had some sort of impact.
Oh, yeah.
It has been noted that the Astros have a very good camaraderie as a team. There's good clubhouse chemistry. I don't think there was a whole lot of panic. There was that hilarious moment where he hit his first home run and started, sprinted around the bases and slid home against Oakland. So I think he's starting to find his confidence again. I'm not going to go as far as to say the team will go as Jose Abreu goes, but I definitely think it's advantageous for them if he can just start to revert back to the player he was, maybe not in the prime of his career, but at least his last several years in Chicago, which is a high contact rate, drive guys in, high run producing caliber first baseman.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said, especially his role off the field. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is when these players, and I think too, that's where Yuli really connected with the fan base. Like you said, he really connected with the local, what was going on. But Abreu was huge in the community there. He did a lot with, I think, Special Olympics and some different things. He's already actually endeared himself to a couple local charities. He's already hosted something that was at Minute Maid Park. Mm-hmm. Actually, his first trip to Minute Maid Park, a friend of mine's kid was on their class field trip, and Jose Abreu and Jeff Bagwell walked past the dugout, and they said, "Hey, this is your new first baseman, Jose Abreu." Of course, this was before we knew whether or not Yuli was coming back. That caused a little bit of a social media storm, but he was shaking the kids' hands in the dugout, and he's just been a genuinely good guy. We saw him in spring training. But talking about this heat up, going into the pitching, we can't ignore this. And I got to give credit to Apollo Media for putting this together. He said the Astros, having the lowest team ERA, 37% of the Astros games have been started by rookies.
Wow.
One third of innings pitched have been pitched by rookies. 45 games, 31 games started, 245 innings pitched, a 3.93 ERA, which is actually a league average, I think, is up right now.
Yeah.
249 Ks and only 95 walks. You've got JP France, who I'm probably going to be doing a feature on over the All-Star break, because JP France has almost been our ace. This guy, 6 consecutive starts, quality starts, his first 6 starts of his major league career. Ronel Blanco has really held it down. Hunter Brown, he's had his ups and downs, but he's been more.
I like Hunter Brown, Michigan kid. So I got.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. No, he's a great kid. And then they actually put Seth Martinez in here. He's I think he came out of the rookie status last year because he did pitch enough innings or enough games. He had enough service time, but nonetheless, how important is this for the Astros rookies and veterans that are there to take part? And Urquidy coming back, is that going to help take some of the load off these young arms?
Well, it has to. And I like the guys you just mentioned. I really like Hunter Brown, but I think that one of the really great things about the Astros, really the overall roster construction over the last several years is that there's such a good balance of young upcoming players and veterans who've been around for a minute. I mean, you have your evergreen guys, Altuve, Bregman, I know Yuli's gone, but even Alvarez, who's been here for several years now. I mean, these guys know what it's like to make deep runs in the postseason. They're aware of the fact that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I think that a prime example of, and while it wasn't from a pitching standpoint, a prime example of, how that kind of dynamic worked perfectly was Jeremy Pena last year. We're kind of in the second half, maybe didn't put up the numbers that he wanted, but by the time you get to the postseason, you watched that. And if you're an outsider, you were watching going, this kid's a rookie. Like he's playing right now like a guy who's seen October a million times over and knows how to experience that. I think that it is advantageous at the deadline to add another arm, but throughout, like I said, treading water has been so important considering the injuries. I know that it's not ideal to be throwing so many rookies out there, but the fact that they've been it's ranged from being legitimately good, like in Hunter Brown's case, to just being serviceable, every fifth day starters. I think it's been very important. And also the fact that you have that guy every fifth day in Frommer who can really hold down the fort, who's going to give you 6-7 innings. I think it's helped them a lot. I think it will help them long-term. I think it's going to help these rookies, develop confidence over time. But yeah, I mean, it speaks to what the Astros have been able to do really as an organization over the last several years, where they've had guys go down. And it seems like even with the farm system maybe not being what it was, circa 2015 through 2017, there's still pieces here, and there's still great pitching development, and there's still a great analytics department that can put these guys in the best position to succeed. Now, come October, I think it will play to their strengths if they're pitching rookies 40 or 37% of the time. No, but I don't expect that to happen either. I think they're going to try to shorten games to the bullpen. You're still going to have Frommer. You're still going to have Javier. And I think you'll probably try to get a veteran pitcher at the deadline as well. So for the time being, like I said earlier, the fact that they've been able to stay within striking distance with the amount of injuries, with the amount of rookies that they've used, it speaks to the kind of culture that they've built there for sure.
Exactly. And, this episode is actually brought to you by Hooters. Let me tell you, Hooters makes you happy, and they are one of our title sponsors this Friday on the 7th. We're having a pregame live podcast from Pearland area Hooters. We're giving away 2 sets of Crawford box seats to 2 different games. I believe one's the Rangers, one's the Rays. Some excellent games. We're not just giving you, the Oakland A's are coming to town, so here's free tickets, and they're great seats. Those are actually donated to y'all from Htown Bingo. Those guys were kind enough to do that. There's going to be wing eating contests, all kinds of stuff. Let me tell you, if you need to grab your buddies, whether it's Webster, Sugarland, Humble, Stafford, Katy, Pasadena, anywhere in between, especially Pearland, you need to come check out Hooters, because every week, Monday, they have buy one, get one wings. Tuesdays, $9.99 burger and fries. Wednesdays, buy one, get one boneless wings. Thursdays, $19.99 wings and Big Daddy bundle. And on Friday, $19.83 crab legs. Kids eat free on Saturdays and Sundays. So come hang out where the guys at Locked On Astros hang out. And don't forget about our July 7th event. Also in July in Pearland, they were going to have trivia night on the 6th, the day before. And then they're going to have a Toys for Tots fundraiser the 17th through the 31st. Halfway to Christmas for 2 weeks. Basically, they'll be having Christmas in the summertime. So check out Hooters. Tell them the guys from Locked On sent you. Why? Because Hooters makes you happy. Hey, I want to show you something, Castellani, that a friend of mine shared with me. A guy named Phil Seelig. He is a photojournalist who goes to Cuba quite a bit out of Canada. He sent me this picture a while back, and we've had him on the show. But look at this. You have a young Yordan Alvarez.
Look at those legs.
16 years old. This is before the Astros even got a hold of him in the famous trade for who was it? Gosh, I just went blank.
What was it? Oh my God. Fields, right?
Josh Fields. Yeah. Josh Fields. Sorry. I don't know why I blanked on his names. But Yordan Alvarez has grown so much, and he's become this mature hitter. He's become this really a team leader. I mean, I don't know I don't know how much you watch all the different Astros highlights, but the other day, whenever Bregman hit the grand slam, it was almost like Dusty looked at Yordan Alvarez like, I told you so. They kind of had a bet going. With him coming back, we talked about that with Urquidy coming back. And with Brantley being out, we don't know. Look, I'm going to proceed as if Brantley's not going to come back because they keep moving the line, right? Does this dictate their trade deadline needs? Do they have to get a bat? Do they have to get an arm? Because I know you said basically getting back these two guys is like a trade acquisition. How much pressure do you think Dana Brown's under to go get somebody? And then you got to look at what do you have to give?
Right. It's an interesting conundrum. Now, I will have to double check. I don't know how many elite bats or even really good bats are available right now at the deadline. Now, at all deadlines, there's always pitching, whether it be relief pitching, starting pitching. That's usually where teams go if they want to unload assets. You're getting Jordan back. I think my expectation is that the offense is going to get very hot and that Bregman is going to start to turn things around and that Abreu is going to get better. I still think your 1 through 6 is about as good as anybody's. You bring up the rookie pitchers as much as I've liked them, and I do think Hunter Brown will definitely have a spot in a playoff rotation. There's some question marks at least right now. By the time people listen to this, Javier will have started against the Rangers, but Javier's velocity and spin rate have been down his last few starts. I think that if you're looking for what to really add, I think that you lean into your strengths to a certain extent. Yes, this is the number one, ERA in the American League. But when you look back at last year's team and what made them successful, now, of course, Jordan was a stud and Pena went nuts in October and Bregman was a pest in every series you guys played. But the reason you won the World Series last year is your pitching shut everyone down. I mean, the Yankees could not score runs. The bullpen was just as good as any unit I've ever seen. I mean, without, hyperbole there, putting up a 0.58 ERA in October is almost impossible. I mean, what they were able to do. So I think that they're going to assess this and say, let's play to our strengths. Let's try to build a similar unit to what we built last year. Now, the kind of, issue you run into is, what does the farm system look like right now? Are the prospects there for you to make a huge push? Because there's going to be some elite names available. I mean, there's probably going to be more over the coming weeks. Like right now, the Cubs, I think, are kind of in it in the Central. If they fall out, Marcus Stroman becomes available. There's rumors about Max Scherzer being available. So I think they will definitely add a pitcher. The possibility of them adding a bat is there. I think that if they're looking for a move, I think last year's kind of a prime example, and not to say this guy set the world on fire, but I think somebody like a Mancini who you added last year at the deadline, where you can play him at first, you can put him outfield, you can DH him. I think getting just some nice pop in, not even the middle of the lineup, but maybe near the bottom of the lineup is probably going to be advantageous. I'll have to look at the names. I don't believe right now, and I could be wrong, that the system is there for you to make the huge splash that you did, say, in 17 when you got Verlander. Now, obviously, the Verlander trade for us turned out to be a disaster, but at the time, you're talking about a top 20 prospect and two very well-regarded prospects in Jake Rogers and Daz Cameron. The system isn't there right now for you to make a push for a Verlander like you did in 17, right, or Greinke like you did in 19. But you can add smaller pieces, and I think definitely assemble a crew that can compete for and win a World Series.
Well, because I reminded Eric the other day. I said, I hate to remember 2021. I would like to forget that World Series. But the Braves did a lot of their damage with the 4 guys they picked up at the trade deadline, and they weren't big money moves. Your Jock Peterson, your Jorge Soler, it was your role players, right? Because we know when it comes to October, it's not always about the superstars. I mean, Mike Trout, Aaron Judge, non-existent in the Fall Classic. So it's not about the big name, and people have floated the name Jorge Soler. I've kind of joked, why couldn't we get Brian De La Cruz back? Did we have to let him go? He was kind of another Teoscar Hernandez, the one that got away from me. Mm-hmm. But the Marlins look like they're competing. And I think what makes
the Marlins they're either going to stand pat or buy. I mean, they're 10 games above 500 right now. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, no. And that's what I think is making this year so interesting. Number one, you mentioned the Rangers. The Rangers have already been buyers.
Yes.
They got Aroldis Chapman, and he did face Jose Altuve. I loved it. I kind of joked on our episode after the Astros came back and beat the Rangers in the third game of that series that I would have loved to seen another father-son combo on the field, kind of like King Griffey Jr. and King Griffey Sr., where Aroldis Chapman and Jose Altuve were on the same team, father-son playing catch with each other, because Jose Altuve completely owns Chapman, and he actually hit a single off of a slider. It wasn't aided by any trash cans or anything, so that was nice. So take that, haters. But seriously, I think this trade deadline is going to be tricky, but I think a lot of people expect that Dana Brown is going to have to do something, because they did nothing at the trade deadline, and Abreu this and all that stuff, and, you know, Brantley, and there's just a lot of people just being negative. So this year you've got more teams competing, is my point, and you've got more teams that now know what the Astros need. And I don't know that there's this anti-Astros bias, but I think a lot of fans kind of get that. Like, are they not going to trade with us because we're the Astros?
Honestly, I've wondered about that with the Rays too, where the Rays have fleeced so many teams in trades.
True.
That I wonder if teams at deadlines are like, you know, I like this package, but like maybe we should hold off a little bit because it could be a ticking time bomb. Like, yeah, I've thought about that in the past. Like, I mean,
it's like there's a reason the Rays are getting rid of this guy. There's a reason why.
Well, I mean, that's what happened to us with Austin Meadows, where when we traded Isaac Paredes for Austin Meadows, I'm like, geez, we're like Meadows, he's gonna back clean up for us. Like, this is a great deal. Meadows has barely played and Paredes has taken off. Like, even some of your trades that some people look at and say maybe didn't work out, still worked out. Like, I know Greinke maybe didn't result in the World Series championship, but like Seth Beard didn't amount to anything. Like you've done a good job when you have unloaded assets. Those assets have not come back to really bite you. So yeah, no, I have wondered about that. If there's any sort of trepidation, wondering like, you know, what do they know that we might not about
exactly. Well, hey Chris, you know, I do appreciate that, and I want to close it out with this. Get us out around the 35-minute mark. Do you think the Astros experience is a huge advantage going into the second half of this season, going to the playoffs, over someone even like the Rangers that's as hot as they are this year?
As far as it pertains to the head-to-head with the Rangers, I'm going to say no, just because while the Rangers haven't made the playoffs since 2016, Seager, Semien, Eovaldi, a lot of these guys on this team, a lot of the veterans on that team, they've made deep runs in October, or won World Series, or in Seager's case has won a World Series MVP. So I don't, when I go the head-to-head, that doesn't bother me. But as far as how it compares to other teams, yeah, I do take experience into account. Like I do think I am more inclined when I'm, you know, going looking at the head-to-head with other teams, I'm probably going to be more inclined, if it's evenly matched, to give the edge to Houston, because as much as I love analytics and I love the numbers, when you get to October, even when you get late into the season, that sample size shrinks. There is a psychological element to this game. There's a reason why some guys, some of the greatest pitchers of all time, underperform in October, and some hitters who we don't think a whole lot of thrive in October. There is a psychological impact that comes with how you handle the pressure of a late season pennant chase, how you handle the pressure going into the postseason. So I do think that there is a built-in advantage for Houston, because almost every guy on this team knows what it's like to make a deep run. You know, that's subject to change. You know, they play one team gets hot, you know, maybe that doesn't matter, but just looking at it based on the eye test, I do take that stuff into account. I do think experience does matter.
No, and I think that's excellent, and that's not really something I had really thought of with the Rangers. Is you're right, like the second you mentioned those three names, they are all battle tested, and especially Eovaldi, gosh, who seems to be having a Cy Young type of year.
Fantastic, man. Yeah.
You know, I mean, even Andrew Heaney, for the most part, did a really good job against the Astros, even though the Astros ended up coming back and winning. Andrew Heaney has got four guys in that lineup that absolutely own him, and he kept them at bay. So really, it's who shows up at the ballpark that day. It's not necessarily your resume. It's who performs and who doesn't. And so I just want to remind all of our listeners that the Astros play the Rockies Wednesday at 1:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Catch every pitch of the Astros hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Astros. Man, Chris, this has been phenomenal. I absolutely love when you come on. I love your insight, your knowledge, and your ability to just capture, you know, various aspects of the game. I think is second to none. So keep producing that content, keep putting that stuff out there. Guys, y'all need to go follow him. He is Chris Castellani. You can find him at Castellani 2014 on Twitter. He's at Barstool Sports. The dude rocks. Go follow him. Check him out. Chris, send a shout out to anybody you want to in Michigan for us before we go.
Nobody in Michigan, just keep following Barstool Baseball and root for the Tigers if you're not going to root for the Astros.
That's right. And remember, folks, this is your team every day. We're Locked On Astros. Nobody does it like we do it on an everyday basis. Become an everydayer. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, go Stros. We're out.